Good afternoon, everyone. Guys, it's looking more and more likely now that the restrictions on Ukraine are about to be lifted. I don't know how I missed this. This happened on Thursday. The European Union voted to allow restrictions on long-range weapons to be lifted in Ukraine. So, guys, I'm just going to go straight to the articles on the share screen. I'm going to tell you what's actually happened, what's being said, and then we're going to talk about what's actually happening right now on the ground. I've already spoke about this strike that the Ukrainians did on this huge ammunition depot. I've said I'm not 100% convinced that this was a drone attack. I've said it could have actually been a bunker buster. It could have been one of these Storm Shadow missiles, or it could have actually been, as they're talking about now, a Taurus missile. You'll understand that there's a lot of these air-launched, these air-launched missiles. There's a lot of them in the system. There's a lot of them available. Different countries develop them, slightly different parameters. So the Storm Shadow is the one that the British and the French developed, and as I understand it, the Taurus. So if you hear a Taurus missile system, it's not exactly the same. It's more or less the same as a Storm Shadow. It's an air-launched missile system, similar range, similar capacity, but it was developed by the Swedish and the Germans. So let's just get straight into the share screen, guys, because this is absolutely insane. Let Ukraine strike into the heart of Russia. MEPs urge EU countries. European Parliament puts pressure on national governments with a large vote in favour of letting Kiev hit strategic targets inside Russian territory. So, guys, the Ukrainians have been pushing for this, and you're seeing these baby steps moving towards it. And I think we are having baby steps towards it so that no one country can take the blame on the chin. If you look, what happens is you get this thing called a tactical tiptoe, whereby one country will say one thing, and then that's the precedence then another country will say another thing. Guys, at some point, this is going to happen. I see this as an absolute inevitability now. So let's go down. The European Parliament lawmakers want all capitals, so all basic parliaments or whatever it is in that country, in the European Union. And remember, look at the language now, guys. The European Parliament, not NATO, not the United States. The European Parliament are now taking the lead. The European Union are now taking the lead. Europe are taking the lead. Remember, those of you who've been following my channel, we said months and months and months ago, we're going to see this divergence, whether it be the EU, the Europe, whatever. It's going to be Europe putting our big boy pants on and dealing with this threat. And this is going to free up the United States to deal with whatever in the Middle East. Anyway, European Parliament lawmakers want all capitals to allow Ukraine's military to use long-range missiles against targets on Russian territory, according to a non-binding resolution adopted on Thursday. So there was a vote for it. Here it was, guys. A failure by governments to agree to allow... I'll just highlight it. Hang on. A failure by governments to agree to allow Kiev to deploy donated long-range missiles undermines efforts by Ukraine to protect its cities and infrastructure. The MEPs agreed 425 to 131 votes, with 63 people abstained from voting. Guys, this news is absolutely huge, and I almost missed it. I was focusing on the, the exploding pages. I was looking at the Middle East. I was looking at the things that had been said by the US. Guys, this slipped through under my radar. I'm sure it slipped through under a few other people's radars. I can't tell you how big this is of a vote. This is basically now the green light for all EU countries, just to say unanimously, right, guys, yeah, we're all going to let Ukraine use our long-range weapons. Remember, the Europeans don't need America, and America's been diverting guys, for months. Those of you who've been watching this, I've been showing you guys the breadcrumbs, how people are moving further and further apart. Again, it's all fake. It's not real. It's just a perception. But what you can see now, guys, in real time is a situation whereby there's pressure being put on. It's not the case of, you know, the countries don't want to use them. You know, it's not the case of anymore where countries are not wanting to let Ukrainians use the weapons, and they're the only ones that, and they're the ones that are in the majority. It's now the majority who are wanting the Ukrainians to use long-range weapons. Now, with this vote with the EU, that's just going to put more pressure on people to let the Ukrainians use these weapons to strike targets inside Russia. The weapon systems to look out for are it's basically these 150 mile range systems. Now, when you hear 150-mile range, you're like, oh, you know, that's not that far. Guys, because these weapon systems, the Scalp, the Storm Shadow, and what's the other one called? Taurus. And the Taurus, because these are air launched underneath potentially an F-16, they can launch them from, anywhere that F-16 goes. So if you think about wherever that F-16 can fly, when they press the button to launch that missile system, that's 150 miles range from where that is. Guys, absolutely ridiculous escalation. More fighting in Ukraine over the last 24 hours. Guys, we are going to be talking about this and everything else. What I'm going to do tonight, guys, on our live, I'm going to focus entirely on Ukraine. I'm going to give, not the full history of Ukraine, but I'm going to give the key events and why this conflict, guys, there is no road for peace. There is absolutely no road for peace. One side's going to win or the other side's going to win. Neither side are saying what a win is going to be, and that's what makes it, and that's why there can be no peace, because you can't have peace negotiations until each side decides what they want. They're just fighting at the moment, and that's the problem. That is the most dangerous thing. Guys, this is absolutely wild. Don't forget to join in tonight on our live stream, guys, 8 o'clock. We're going to be going through all of this. We're going to be answering your questions in real time. We're going to be talking about this. If there's anything that happens, on the ground while we're talking, we'll share that. We'll share any videos that are relevant. Guys, we are moving closer and closer to an absolute global conflict the likes this world has never seen before. I'm going to try and not mention the Middle East if I can tonight on the live stream, guys, and focus and really focus on Ukraine, because that's where I feel the big play is. I don't feel the conflict in the Middle East has right now anyway. I don't feel the conflict in the Middle East it certainly doesn't have the potential to, escalate into a full-blown thermonuclear war. The Ukraine conflict, the Russia conflict, whatever you want to call it, that 100% does. Anyway, guys, I'm going to Mag to Grid. I'll get you guys another video later, and I'm going to be live tonight at 8, so don't forget to be there.